Not wasting any of your time again. Over to you, Adekunle. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. Right.
Okay. Thank you, MJ. Thank you for the intro, and thank you for the information about the boot camp. I'm sharing my screen now. Please, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Dean.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I would have loved to have those questions MJ wanted to send earlier, so we'd know how much people have been following us. But then, I don't know. I guess you'll be working on it the minute you get it. So today, we are going to be discussing what hybrid identity is and what dietary synchronization is for Microsoft 365. And they are two different things, but they are the same. So we'll start off with hybrid identity, then we'll move down to dietary synchronization. I'll make it more like a scenario based where we would work with it together. I would start with the hybrid identity for us to understand what it is. Then I would move down to dietary synchronization. So you're welcome as you follow us. But before we go into the details for today, this is me, Dean Adekunle, a cloud security engineer with Hashem. I am a technology enthusiast, cybersecurity expert, MCT, excited about hat, new tech inventions, and anything interesting. Yeah, on my workloads and my socials. So we can connect, we can talk about technologies and any other thing interesting. Also, this is going to be the agenda for today. I don't know if those questions are ready to go now, but then we are going to start off with Microsoft Hybrid Identity. Last week, MJ took us on Microsoft 365. She introduced it to us, introduced Azure also to us. We set up our environment. So using the same environment now, we have some users in the cloud already. So this is not going to be a talk. It's going to be more of back and forth with slides and demo. So this is what we're going to do. We have our domain verified, WinTest. That's the name of our organization. And we have users. These users are cloud-only users. Let me sort by sync status. I'll say okay. So you can. Yeah, cloud-only users. So, but then I want to integrate an hybrid. I want to start up with an hybrid environment. So I want my on-premise users to be able to access cloud resources also. This is where the hybrid comes in. Also, this is WinTest on-premise environment. As you can see, we have some users here. These users.
Am I the only one? I'm not sure we're only seeing your agenda still. Am I the only one, please?
Oh, okay. Let me present. I guess I'm not sharing my full screen. Okay. Give me a minute. This thing needs to disappear. Oh. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'll just stop sharing and I'll share again. Okay. Now share the whole screen again. So, my apologies for that. I was saying that this is WinTest. If you're following us throughout the series, you know we are working with WinTest. WinTest is the name of our organization, WinTest Limited. They are into so many things. It's a multinational. This is WinTest environment in Azure. This is a tenant that has .microsoft.com. This is our tenant. This is our domain that has been verified. But then we have users. These users are wholly cloud users. so they can access cloud resources, Office 365, Salesforce, and the likes. But then we also have an on-premise environment that we had before now, before we thought of moving to the cloud. We have users here also, but these users, they cannot access my cloud resources. Ben at wintest.com.ng, you would not be able to access Office 365. So if I do this, if I go to office.com and I say Ben at wintest.com.ng, so you can see it's not even recognized. Azure do not know anybody called Ben at winters.com.ng, but it's on my on-premise environment. It's been authenticated by my Active Directory and is able to use my on-premise resources, but it cannot access my cloud resources. It cannot access Office 365, basically. So going back to our agenda, um, Wintest as an organization want to leverage on hybrid, want to leverage on the cloud. So they need to implement an hybrid infrastructure, which is what we'll be starting with. To implement an hybrid infrastructure, they need to understand. So I'm sounding more like a consultant here, and you are the management. So you follow me like that. Thank you. So they need to understand you need to understand. So I'll be using you. You need to understand the authentication method when it comes to hybrid identity, how you want to authenticate your users. So there are about three authentication methods. For simplicity, you have the password hash, which is what we'll be talking about. We have the pass-through and we have the federated. I know last week MJ spoke a lot about all of these authentication method. I'll just go through it using a diagram because I'm sounding like a consultant, like diagram explaining what it is and how you get to benefit from it and what Wintest as an organization start to enjoy when they implement any of this. Then to do any of these Wintest as selected, you need a tool. So this tool is what is called Azure AD Connect that would help Wintest synchronize their on-premise identities to the cloud. So all of this is what we'll be working on. And don't mind me, I don't have a slide for demo. I'll just jump in and jump out. So as you listen, I hope you enjoyed this session and the engagement. Thank you. So first off, a quick question. MJ, do you have those questions ready now? Is it possible we can get into the chat now?
No, I don't know why we're having the extensions are not working. I could actually then see on maybe I could. Okay, let's do something. We can still have that. So I can paste the question into the chat window, and then maybe with a raise of hand, we can have the poll that way. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
that's fine. That's fine. I'd like you to um, present the first question. I'd like to know the audience if they understand what cloud identity is already, or I would just have to explain and go through it again. You can serve first question, and when the polls are in, you can kindly come my attention. All right, thank you. So first off, like I said, what is Microsoft Cloud Identity? So there's a diagram here. There's a chart here that that explains how this works. Wintest as an organization, you have an on-premise environment, which is this. Need my laser, which is this, and you are planning to move to the cloud, which is this. You want to enjoy SaaS services, PaaS services, Office 365, and the awesome things the cloud has to offer. But then you need something to help you with these transitions, and you need something to authenticate, which is where this Microsoft Azure Active Directory comes in. It's an identity and access management for Microsoft to authenticate your users against all these cloud services. So all of this will be working through. So for simple definitions, hybrid identity, it's a Microsoft solution. It covers and enables synchronized management with your on-premise and your cloud environment. So we are bringing things from two different words together. We're making simplicity and making management easy for IT administrators also. Users do not have to have two separate passwords. You don't have to provision a user on premise, then go to the cloud and provision the same user. Why not just sync the identities to the cloud straight up? Then also, it creates a common user identity for authentication and authorization to all the resources, regardless of where they are residing, either on-premise or the cloud. So this is a hybrid identity. So this is what Wintest would start to enjoy. And so without further delay, let's move on to the authentication methods. So like I said in our agenda, we have three. I'm not going to go deep dive into all of this. I'm just going to give simple definitions. Mainly, there are about two, which is the cloud and the federated. So the cloud is you letting Azure Active Directory, trusting Azure Active Directory enough to allow it to do the authentication for you. So you hands off your user signing process with seamless single sign-on, whereby the users now have to repeatedly impute their password when they just want to access another cloud applications. You automatically just sign them in. So under the cloud authentication, you have two of them. You have the password hash, which MD talked about last week. This time, the password, the hash of the password. So it's not syncing your password. It's not syncing the hash of the password. It's syncing the hash of the password to the cloud. And this is what Azure Active Directory just needs to authenticate your users, and they're able to access the resources. If you are not comfortable with this, because we know and understand that some government policies or federal policies or company policies might not allow you to sync your password because you don't trust the cloud enough, you can opt for the pass-through option, whereby you need to install a pass-through sensor also that helps you validate your password on premise before you're allowed to authenticate. So it just provides a simple validation for Azure Active Directory. So the validation isn't done on Azure this time; it's done on premise through your pass-through agents. Then finally, we have the federated. So this time, you don't even want to have anything to do with Azure, but you want to enjoy the resources, the cloud resources. Yeah, you can implement the federated authentication, whereby you hand off all the authentication processes to your ADFS service for validation and authentication. So this is for organization also that would rather still want to do their validation on premise and not give it to Azure to do that. So as a consultant to Wintest, this flowchart is going to make you, the management, understand how to choose the best authentication method. So this is something simple that explains to you that how do you want to handle your signing process? Do you want it in the cloud? If it's a yes, then you move to the next section. If it's a no, then you know that you're moving to, do you want to integrate it with an existing, if you have a federation provider already, do you want to integrate it with if it's a yes, you move down, if it's a no, you move down. So this chart just simplifies the whole process for you. If it's a yes, yeah, from here, if it's a no, do you want to enforce user level Active Directory policy? Because Azure Active Directory does all the authentication and handles the signing. So you might not be able to enforce some of the Active Directory security policies. So if it's a no and you're fine with that, because Azure provides you extensive security options also. So if it's a no, you're comfortable with Azure, just opt for password hash synchronization with seamless sign-on. But if it's a no, you have an option to go for pass-through with seamless sign-on. But if you noticed, for redundancy for this other two, you have also password hash sync for pass-through, and you have it for also federation and federation. So password hash sync is is always advised, even if you are implementing any of these two. So for simplicity, we'll be showing WinTest as an organization how to implement pass-through synchronization with seamless sign. So, so putting all of this in diagram as a technical person, this is password hash synchronization in its simplicity. So this is WinTest Active Directory currently. We are going to install and set up an Azure AD Connect server that helps sync the identities to the cloud and also sync the hashes of the passwords to the cloud. So when a user is trying to sign in, maybe an on-premise user is trying to sign in and access the cloud applications, all they need to do is sign in, input their credentials, and get authenticated by Azure Active Directory, and they are able to access any cloud application they want to access in simplicity. So you can imagine the simplicity with this also. Then, but let's put that aside and let's move to pass through. So if you are not feeling too comfortable with that because it's too simple, you have to pass through also. Like I said earlier, there's going to be a pass through authentication agent installed already in your environment. This is WinTest Active Directory environment. This is Azure AD Connect syncing the identities to the cloud, but it won't sync the password this time. So when the user tries to sign in with their credential, the password is redirected to the pass-through agent through the pass-through agent to home premise for validation. So once it's been validated, the user is being able to access the cloud applications or Office 365 or line of business apps in the cloud that they want to access. So it gives that simplicity also. So you can see here that password validation requests are sent to the Windows Server AD on premises via the pass-through agent. So best advice also for redundancy, it advises you set up about 2 or 3 pass-through agents. So now considering the overhead cost of that is going to be higher compared to you implementing the password hash. And also for redundancy, it's best you implement password hash sync also when you have implemented pass-through, just in case. So finally, for federated, for organizations that would still rather want to have validation on-premise and even authentication on-premise, they would opt for federated authentication. This is more expensive when you look at it, but most likely you already have a federated environment. And also for federated environment, for federated authentication, it supports your, if you have an on-premise MFA server or you are an organization that still use smart card authentication, this works very fine, no problem. So yeah, imagine you have to set up about 4 different servers, the proxy servers and the federated servers in your ADFS farm. Then you have your Active Directory. You also have your AD Connect synchronizing the identity without the password this time to the cloud. So when a user wants to get access to the cloud app to your cloud applications, they sign in to Azure AD, but then the sign in is being redirected. It goes through your DFS proxy, your perimeter network. It goes through your GFS server before it gets validated. And once it's validated, before the user gets access to the application. So even with its complexity, there are some organizations that rather opt for this. So if you want to go for this, it's also an option. Also, okay. So before we jump to the other things I'd like to see, let's talk about the pros and the cons of each of these options you have. All of them provides you single sign-on. That's a given. For the pass-through, you don't have to remember 2 passwords. For all of them, basically, you do not have to remember 2 passwords. 1 password is fine. Then also for password hash, if something happens on premise, the user is still going to be fine and access the cloud applications because authentication is being done by Azure. And in this case, you also have a smaller footprint. because you are not setting up something complex. So, and if your internet is down on premise, that's not a problem, can carry on. But then there are some cons that comes with it that um, you might not have the ability to implement those security policies on your that you usually have on premise um, before you implement password hash, because authentication is done in the cloud when you try to access cloud resources. And to implement self-service password reset, also you need to have Azure Active Directory Premium or EMS licenses. It's not really a bad side anyway, because either way you still need to have your EMS licenses to enjoy better security in the cloud also. And for the first one, Azure Active Directory gives you top-notch security if you come to think of it. Then for pass-through also, it's built in your ID Connect. You see the option. Then you can deploy additional agents, like I said earlier, for redundancy also. And also building for the con, also building those redundancy might cost you maybe 1 or 2 extra bucks also. And you have the federated. So like I said, the federated integrates well with your on-premise MFA. If you have a cloud smart card authentication you use on-premise, it integrates well also. It also gives you full single sign-on. You do not need to sync the password. So your password is not even in the cloud. Your password hash is in there also. But then you need an additional infrastructure if you don't have it already implemented. You need additional point of failure. This is where the pass-through comes in. So when there's something wrong with your federated authentication, then your users can still continue working because they'll fall back to your password hash. It's a little expensive. You need to have your SSL certificate from public CA, and you have to maintenance mainly. It's more. So that's it. Then with that explained, I'll move to re-implementing one of these options. This is where the tool comes in, the Azure AD Connect. So we need now, after explaining all of this to Wintest, and they have given us the go ahead to carry on. Azure AD Connect is the tool we use to synchronize our identities and the password. So in this case, I'm going to assume Wintest has opt for the password hash synchronization, which is what we'll be doing. So you can see a simple definition here. It's a Microsoft tool. It's designed to meet and accomplish your hybrid identity goals. It provides the password hash, pass-through, federated synchronization for your identities, and even monitors your environments for you also, your sync errors, your updates, and the likes. So without further delay, let me go to, let me show you the environment before we come back to this slide. So,
Okay. Sorry, Dean, just a
okay,
minute. I have the question pasted. I mean, the link to the question on forms pasted in the chat window, so they can just quickly help us answer it. It's not going to take any of your time, really. And don't worry, we got you covered. You're just going to be answering and as anonymous. Nobody will know who answered. Just want to see the level of knowledge you have.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so please, we look forward to your answers so we can always discuss about it. And fine, this is my Active Directory, like I showed earlier, and this is my ID Connect. This is server I want to provision my ID Connect on. Then let me show you the cloud environment first. So to start with, you obviously would have your hardware, which is one of the prerequisites, which is I'll talk about the prerequisite later. Then you download the AD Connect setup. It's a lightweight basically, but then it's about 98 megabytes, so it's lightweight. To download your AD Connect, also you can see from here, just take note of this health. I only have two. I only have service health and message center. The service health show you your environment if you have any issues. But after we implement the AD Connect, we are going to see what changes. To download the setup, you can come to your users portion. You go to directory synchronization. You click on it takes you to the download center where you download it. But then I already have it, so I do not need to download. So let me just go to my environment. So this is my environment. This is where I want to implement my AD Connect. So first off, I have downloaded it also. I remembered something. Let me show you the Azure environment also. Okay. So this is the Azure environment. This is AD Connect. This is AD Connect. So as you can see, I have sync has never run. I've never run here. Then I can download also from here because it's not installed. And I can see the number of options we have here. We have federated, we have single sign-on. All of them are disabled and domain 000. Then we have the health here also. If I click on it, it's not going to bring anything because we do not have it installed. And also, I need you to take note about something. I'm going to talk about this later. It's a new solution from Microsoft. It's called the Azure AD Connect Cloud Provisioning. It's still in preview, but for techies that wants to get the know ahead, you can see what this is. It's similar to your AD Connect with few differences, but it's lightweight also. It's extra lightweight. So there are some differences. You might want to check it to see how it works and what it does also. So just take note. So back to this. So this is my AD Connect. I want to install it. I'll click on install. Yeah. So it's installing. I'll just minimize this. And I'm going to minimize this so we talk about something else. Let this pop up go away. I need this pop up to disappear. Okay. So first thing, like you'd always have with any installation, your privacy notice. I check the box, I click continue, and this is a number of options. So I can choose the express settings, but express settings just gives you the default. Microsoft configures approximately everything for you. So you can see here if you have a single active AD forest, we will do the following. So Microsoft will install the password sync for you. It would set up a service accounts that will be used also, and to synchronize with default attributes, enable auto upgrade and likes. But just to show you better, if you click on this, it's going to set it up. But I'm not going to. This is not what would do. Okay, it's going to require global admin and the likes. But this is not what we want to do. We want to do the custom. So because I want you to have a feel of how this works. So this is the custom. This is what is required. This is what is required to be installed. So this is what it's going to install. If I click on install, it's going to install all of this. But then AD Connect, AD Connect set up an SQL server for you for a database for identities. It's about 10 gig using SQL Express. If you're an organization that you feel 10 gig is not 10 GB is not going to be enough, you can use an existing SQL server if you want to. You can also specify a custom installation location if you want to, and use an existing account for your synchronization if you want to. But also, let's click on install. Let's set that up, then let's see what happens. You can see it's installing an SQL Server Express for us already. So like I said earlier, it's just 10 gig. If you would require more, you can connect to an external, set up an SQL database server, then plug it in, which is fine. I need this guy to be off. Okay, so fine. So let's just have this here. So while this is going on, I'd like to quickly show us what's next. Initially, I want to set this up before I go to the next slide, but instead of waiting, we can quickly just move to the next slide. We'll check again later. So the next slide is this installation prerequisite. So this is what you should know. You should know that it supports your 2012 or later. And it has to be a domain join Windows Server 2012 or later. It cannot be installed on your business your essentials, Windows Server Essentials before 2019. But if you have Windows Server Essential 2019, it's supported, which is fine. You cannot install it on a server core. It has to be fully GUI also. And partial transcription, it has to be enabled if you want to use your federation services because you need to manage your federation configuration. And if you are opting for the federated authentication and you need to deploy your ADFS, that's your federation services. Your proxy also needs to be installed on the 2012 R2 or later, and you need to configure a TLS certificate and you need to configure name resolution for your proxy also. Then, if you have a global administrator that has MFA enabled, you need to allow this URL as its trusted site on your browser also, because sometimes you might get prompt and your browser might block you. So you need to allow this. Let's go back to our installation. Okay, fine. Okay, so these are the options ADFS gave us. We have the password hash sync. You see, this is checked by default. If I rather want to go for pass through, I'll just need to check it, or I want to use ADFS, check it. And you have ADFS with ping federate. So ping federate is also integrated with your federation service that requires you to log into your corporate network. And like for better clarity, you can click on the question mark or click on the link and takes you to a Microsoft site that shows you better. Also, if you don't want it to be configured, you can click on not configure and that's fine. You are not choosing any of this. It's just going to do synchronization of your identities, but it's not going to configure any of this. You can use that with your ADFS also. So then, but in this case, I'm going to select the password hash sync and I'm going to enable single sign-on also. And I'm going to say next. Then I need my global administrator credentials. So I'm just going to use this guy. Let's test.com.ng. And I'm going to use this password. I need to check this password. Okay. So why impute this? MJ, do we have the pools here now?
Yes, I only have about 4 people, but we can go through it. I just wanted you to get to a stage where the thing is running and I can show them the screen.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So just type the wrong password. Sorry, password is a little tricky. Okay, so once we do this, it verifies the password with the tenant. So that's why it needs to verify. So now the next option is your Active Directory. So I need to add a domain. This is wintest.com.ng. I can click on it to add it. Then this is requiring a service account that does the periodic synchronization for us. So you can choose to create a new AD account. So all you need to do here is input an account with enterprise admin rights. So Azure AD Connect automatically creates an account and give it the appropriate rights for you. But you can choose to use an existing account. So for me, I have an existing account, service account I have created, and I've given it the appropriate rights. So which is what I'm going to use. Test. And I call this sync. I'm going to input this password. I'm going to say okay. So, okay. So I'm going to say okay. So now it has been added, and if you have more than one forest, let's say you acquire other complaints, you have um, um, win.xyz, abc.com or xyz.com, you can add all those forests here also. Then you click on next. So it's going to configure it, retrieving some pins that's required. Then you can also see here it's telling me that wintest.com.ng is verified, like I showed earlier in our Azure portal. It's verified, and this is the attribute that it's going to use. So it's a one-minute select an on-premise attributes. It's best leaving it as default user principal name. So when users want to log on, they can log on as their username at the UPN surface as maybe user1 at wintest.com.ng to sign in, which is better. It gives simplicity. So I click on next, and this is where I define what I want to sync to the cloud. So I can choose to select all, it syncs everything, but there are so many things you do not want to sync to the cloud. So why not just choose what you want to sync? So I can uncheck from the root, then check what I want. So I can also check here and uncheck. So I can uncheck computers, domain controller, don't want to sync this, don't want to sync this, don't want to sync this. I have WinTest users. So I'll just sync the WinTest users so you see what it's like. So I'll just sync WinTest user. Then I'll click next. So you can come back here also to do more if you want to change. So here also you need to define how you want your users to be identified. It's alright to leave this as default. Azure would use the best source anchor for you. You can also click on the question mark to understand what each of these guys does. So, but I'll just click on next. Then here also, because we have defined what we want to sync to the cloud, here you do not need to check the synchronize selected. You can leave it as synchronize or it's not going to synchronize everything. And also this part is best used for testing. Maybe you want to synchronize some things first before you do your full synchronization. You can come here and do those. So I'll say next. And you can see what we are choosing. If you have an exchange on premise, you want to sync with the cloud also, you want to have an hybrid, you can would go back, you would have selected it way back anyway. But I've checked password as synchronization. If you want to implement password right back also, you can check this. But for now, I'll just leave it as it is for simplicity. All of this would require some permissions if you are using a defined, self-defined service account. So you need to know which permissions you need to give your accounts for them to be able to implement any of this. You can check the Microsoft documents for better clarity. So I'll say next. So for single sign-on, because I checked single sign-on, it needs me to impute a credential. So I need to impute a domain administrator account that does that helps me authenticate my users. So I have a domain account I can use. So is wintest.me and so let's see. Okay. So you can see it's fine. We're good. So this account will be used to configure single sign-on on your on-premise environment. So I'll click on next, then it's checking for installed components, and this is what is going to happen. So these are the things I have done, I've configured. It's going to enable single sign-on for me. It's going to configure the connector. It's going to enable password hash sync. And I can choose to check this option that says it should start synchronization process when it finished the configuration. And also I can enable staging mode. So staging mode, so there's a caveat. Your AD Connect, you cannot have two AD Connect server in an environment. It's just one. So, but if you need to have another one for redundancy, you can set up an AD Connect server in a staging mode. So what it does is just it listens. It doesn't do any synchronization, any password, right back, anything. It just stays. So, but when your main AD Connect is down, you can come back to your staging AD Connect server and you uncheck the staging mode and it just start working. And it doesn't have to do a start. It doesn't have to start from the beginning. It just continue. It just picks up. It does its delta sync, not doing a full sync from the whole background. So let's install. So while this is installing, uh, okay. So just put this inside. While this is installing, we'll come back to this once it's done. Yeah, you're done with the slide. So let me take us to some topologies. So we need to understand that some things are not supported, some things are supported. So what are supported topologies? We AD Connect. You can have it in single forest, single active directory tenants. Like we are doing now, we have a single forest, which is wintest.com.ng on premise. And we have a single active directory tenant, which is single wintest.com.ng.microsoft.com, which is fine. This is our forest, this is our sync agents, and this is our Azure for tenants. Then also you can have more forests, multiple forests or single tenants, which is also fine. When I was setting it up, I showed us if you need to add more forests, you just click on add forest, then you input your forest. So these are for organizations that have mergers, acquisitions, and the likes. They can have multiple forests synced to one active directory. So it helps you even simplify your management. So even though you are going to have abc.com, you can still have xyz.com, you can still have fad.com, so like that. So next up, it supports this also. You can have multiple tenants, multiple forests, multiple tenants, which is also fine. There's a one-to-one relationship. Nothing is being duplicated, or you have one forest syncing to a separate tenant and you have another forest syncing to a separate tenant, which is fine. So you can have your merger or acquisition that you've acquired as a forest syncing to, if they have a tenant where they're coming from, they can still sync to their tenant, which is also fine. EdConnect works with that. Then another thing we need to know is you cannot have duplicated objects on EdConnect, so it has to be unique. So that's why we have this here. Each object only once in an Azure AD tenant, so you cannot have multiple objects in tenants. So if you have multiple objects, you sync them to different tenants, which is fine. And since your DNS can only be tied to one Azure AD tenant, so you should obviously just have one. So next, these are what is not supported. Let's check our config before we go there. Okay, so you can see it's enable password has sync already for me, saving and the likes. So let's go back to this. Let's do this. Okay, wow, time is almost up. So this is what is not supported. You cannot have a single forest and you have multiple sync servers connecting to one Azure AD tenant. It's not possible. I said it earlier that you only have one Azure Active Directory AD Connect server in an environment. So also, this is not supported. You cannot have multiple forests with their own sync agent, that's AD Connect, syncing to just one AD Connect, one AD Azure AD tenant is also not possible. What you'd rather have is a staging server that just does listening, it doesn't sync, it doesn't do anything, while you have just one that does the syncing, so which is supported also. Then finally, this is also not supported. So I said you cannot have one object appearing multiple times in an Azure AD tenant. All your objects must be uniquely identified. So it is not a supported scenario. So you cannot sync the same user to multiple tenants. It's not possible. You cannot make a configuration change so that the user is dash, and you cannot modify the connect also to sync to multiple tenants. No, it has to sync to just one tenant. With that said, let's go to our slide. Okay, fine. So this is a configuration complete. It was succeeded, and all I would just need to do here is click exit. So why I do that, let's see what happens. I'm going to go to the service, the synchronization service that was installed, and I would go to services to see what was installed, to show you what was installed, and I'll go to control panel to show you what was installed. Let me close this. I think I spelled it wrong. Services.ms. So you can see what was installed. These three. You see your AD Connect, your health agent, and your synchronization service. And also you can see as your AD Connect health is running, this is also running, and if you go to Microsoft Sync, it is also running, which is fine. So also here, our synchronization service, you can see what is going on. We see that we have full synchronization because it's first time. We first add an export, then we have full synchronization, then we have an export. So you can click on any of these to see what's going on. I can click on this to see, and Also, I can click on it to see. I can click on any of his command name to see what was being synced. So we can see this is Green, Chris Green. It's been synced. I can close this guy. I can go to under user. I can see Matt Murdoch. So before I come back here, sorry, time is up, but we need to finish this. So I should minimize this. So let's go to the cloud. Let's see what's going on. I'll go back here. Let's refresh. So I just refreshed and you can see that we have these users. We have, where's Chris? Chris Green is here, it's been synced. It shouldn't give me this. It needs to update. It should give me something else. Let me take this off first. I want us to see what it should give us. So we refresh. You can see those users have been synced. You're synced as unlicensed, which is fine. Then you need to keep them licensed as required. This is also a sync agent that was set up when we imputed our global admin credentials. So we can see this here also. And let me do a refresh. Also, if I come here, AD Connect, let me do a refresh. You can see this is now enabled. This is enabled, and this is the last time it was synced less than an hour, which is obvious. We enabled single sign-on, which is enabled, and says yes. So we can click on the else this time, and we'll see if we have any errors. I doubt we are going to anyway. And you can see the cloud services also. You can see I have one, which is my which is my tenant also. Then you can modify notifications here also. By default it's on, so you don't have to. You can just add additional recipients if you want to, which is totally fine also. Okay, so let's go back to what I want to show us. Let me see if this has changed. Save this. This has not changed. I want you to see what the symbol it brings out for synced users. But on my Azure AD, I should see that if I go to users, so you can also see that it says dietary synced. No, but dietary synced for Chris Green, it says yes. So that means it's been synced from my on-premise environment. So let's go back here. I'm really done showing you what it looks like to sync. So the users now can now sign in. So that will be what I'll do finally. So this is the server. This is going to be my connector. I can see my Azure AD here, my tenant rather. This is my tenant and this is my on-premise environment. I can click on the properties if I need to do any modifications also. From here, I can choose to configure some things also. This is what is being synced. If I need to add anything, I can come here to check and just add if I need to. I'd say, okay, if I need to add additional forest, I can also add, okay, before that, if I need to let Azure AD Connect sync from a specific domain controller, I can configure that here. I can choose the specific domain controller I want it to sync from, which is okay. Then this is the forest it's been connected to also. So this is the authentication, which is also fine. I can say okay. So also you can do a search from here. You can search for a user. I can add a clause and search a user. I can use the UPN or enabled user is present. I'll say okay. It's fine, and I'll say search. So if I have any, it should populate it. So these are the users that have been synced. So I can do this. I can see what is being synced for the users. Also, I can see the connector also, and I can see my attribute. There's so much more you can do here. Um, so if I need to see if I've just updated a user and a sync process is going on, but then I need to sync that user ASAP, I can come here and click on my, this is the one on top, the connector on top is my Azure AD, while the one down is my Windows Active Directory environment. So I can click on it and I would say preview. Maybe I added an office line and I want to sync it ASAP to the cloud. I can click on preview and I would say generate preview. I have a number of options here, default synchronization or Delta. I can also click on drop down, then see my changes, which one I want to. Also, I can say next here. I can close this. If I've seen the changes here also shown, I can I can commit preview. So once you generate preview, you can also commit the preview. So it syncs automatically to the cloud. You can save it. Say close, close. So that's more of it with the synchronization to the service. Yeah, you have. You can use it to do so much also. And you can see more details if you need to. But going back to also, if I don't want to use this, if it's not looking pretty enough, you can also launch the tool, the Azure AD Connect tool, and you can see what you have. I can say that I want to configure and I want to see what I have done presently. I would say next. Then this is what I have configured. Password hash is being enabled. Um, Password write back is enabled and all those things. Then I can go back. If I need to modify what I've done, I can click on customize. Also, I need to input my credentials, then and get that done. If I need to change, maybe after a while, my policy change, I need to change my authentication method. I can click on this to change my authentication method if I need to. So that's it with AD Connect. So with that said, before we begin, I showed us that Ben at winters.com wasn't able to sign into Azure to Office 365. So let's try him again and let's see. Okay, I think I have someone. So also before that, let me see the user. MJ, good if you have anything to show us. So this is Ben. Ben is unlicensed. If you have your licenses, you can assign licenses to Ben. This is Ben username, and his password is also being synced. I do not know Ben password, so I might not be able to log in. Okay. So you can see this time it's recognizing Ben, and Ben can sign into cloud application. So all Ben needs to do is input his password and is able to access all the cloud resources that his organization has to offer. So which is fine. So this means that our deployment has worked and hopefully Wintest as an organization is excited about this. All right. So thank you for your time. And if you have questions, we're ready to take them. We are good. So, MJ, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so That was a good one, and then I think I learned some things there. I mean, there's something new to me there, really, and then I hope everyone also has learned something. So, very well. I think before the start of the program, what we intended to do is just to have like what your knowledge is around the topic, and we just want to test your knowledge on it. So, if you look at this question, I mean, if you still have question, please, we'll be taking it. I just wanted us to go through the quiz we sent to everyone. Number one question says identity stored in an on-premise Active Directory can be synchronized to Azure Active Directory. I mean, the fact is that we've given ourselves away with this because we've already showed you how to do it, and Dean has already done a lot of his slide before the answer. So also, we also want to, I mean, assume that there are some people that are not newbies in this, so they will know it. So the right answer is truly true. Yes, you can't do that. That is what Dean just showed us now. Now we went back to the other few classes we had. We said your organization plans to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is accessed by external users. You need to recommend the cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative efforts used to manage the web application. What will you include in the recommendations? And then because we said, remember when we talk about the different deployment, I mean, the different service model we have in Azure, we talk about software as a service, platform as a service, and then infrastructure as a service. That is the major three. Yes, we also look at one last week, which is what identity as a service. You have container as a service also. So, but for this particular question, the answer is B, platform as a service, because your web application is actually what the platform you want to put in place. So, number three, we said the process of verifying user credentials is one, authorization, authentication, and auditing. So that was last week's session. Just want to test your brain, and the answer is actually B, authentication. Number four says the maximum number of users that can use Microsoft 365 Business Plan is 300. True or false? So the answer is true because
So, hello, MJ.
yeah.
So I think you need to emphasize on this since we have so many false.
Okay. So one of the things is this, for you to be able to, because I did the very first time I put us through Microsoft 365 fundamentals, we talked about the total number of users that can use the business plan. So if you're a user that want to buy the business plan, organization is looking at buying the business plan. If your organization is 301, sorry, you can't use the business plan. The maximum number, if an organization that can use the business plan will be an organization that is has up to 300, okay, sorry, 300 users, sorry, up to 300 users are the ones that can use the business plan. So I think I missed out something there. Yeah. I think I get what you're saying. The maximum number, I think, is because of the word the maximum. So the number of users that that can use the business plan, that may be opted to use the business plan, really has to be from 300. So that's what it means. I think that part I missed it out. So the first looks great because of what I think the way I phrased that question actually is confusing. Yes, I think I see what you're saying. The number five, so the answer is actually B. Yes, you're right. Number five, the process of keeping records of user activity is auditing. Yes, I think we got that right. Number six, dash is used to save time when adding multiple users using Microsoft 365 admin. One or two answers may be required. So the right answer is this. The keyword here is Microsoft 365 admin center. The only two ways we can import accounts into Microsoft 365 admin center is through using the user template and the CSV. If you have to use, if you're not using the admin center, you can't use the PowerShell through the admin center. So those are the two ways you can do that. The number seven, the process of determining the operation a user is allowed to perform or what he has access to is actually known as authorization. So that is it. Like we said, we wanted the responses to be anonymous. For all of us that has participated, well done. For those who did not, I'm sure you gain one thing or the other from the question. So that being said, I'm going to move right now to the next agenda. Please, if you have any question now, we'll be willing to take it. I think my system just decided not to be friendly with me at all today. So a lot of things is happening at the same time on my system. So very well. Um, do we have any questions based on what Dean has taught us? If you have any questions, let me look at the chat window. Right. I think we do not have. I think it was pretty straightforward. Thank you once again, Dean, for that session, and thank you all for stopping by. Please do go to our Twitter, follow us on our Twitter handle, the YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then also we'll be pasting this, we'll be making this recording available at the end of the week, before midweek next week. And then also we'll be making available the step-by-step for you to be able to set up your own AD Connect. So from next week, I will be sharing another meeting invite, a new meeting invite from next week. I will actually be sharing a new one. The reason why is because we might not be able to use the same meeting invite again. Starting from next week, we will not be holding our Friday session again. We will move it to 5th of September, which is Saturday. So I'll be sending in a new meeting invite, and I think our session is from 12 to 1 or 1 to 2. So on Saturday. So I'll share that during the course of the week with every one of us. Please spread the news around the MCT West Africa boot camp. Is very, very important. We want you there. We want your friends there. We want IT groups there. So thank you once again for stopping by, and do have a very wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.